When KSI created Misfits Boxing, his vision was to build a boxing promotion that was on a different level. One where the storylines were front and center, where every card would be too good to miss, and where anyone could transform into a star. There are two people who took this opportunity by the horns: Salt Papi and Slim Albaher. If you take a look at either of these guys, the first thing that comes to mind probably isn't boxer, but looks can be deceiving. Against the odds, Slim and Papi have become two of the biggest stars in influencer boxing. They've been tested again and again, but each time they've come out on top. It seems like everyone knows their names now, but even just a year ago that was far from the case. Many people believe they owe their success to having boxing experience prior to Misfits, so I'll show you how much experience they really have and their journey to becoming two of the biggest names in the scene. Salt Papi's boxing debut was in March 2022 versus Halal Ham. When he started training for the fight in January, he weighed 95 kilos at only 5'9". Papi has always struggled with his weight, growing up as a fat kid who was constantly bullied due to his size.
When I was young, I used to get called fat, and I had anger issues as well before, so I used to fight a lot.
Okay.
I used to, so nobody can fuck with me. I know how to fight.
He always had an interest in the sport of boxing, and his biggest inspiration was Manny Pacquiao, the legendary Filipino boxer. Unfortunately, Papi's family was poor, so he didn't have access to a boxing gym in the Philippines. But a few years after moving to the UK, he began hitting bags in the gym and would often get into street fights at his local basketball courts. Though it wasn't until he landed the fight versus Halal Ham several years later that he started training seriously. In his 6-week training camp for the fight, he began cutting weight and dropped from 95 kilos to 89 kilos by the March weigh-ins. The fight was hosted by Showstar Boxing at the SEC Arena in London. Right away, you could see Salt Papi looked extremely confident, and it didn't take long for people to realize the fight was a serious mismatch. Papi was taunting Halal Ham the whole way through, toying with him as he landed punch after punch. He showcased his ability to manage distance and counterpunch, and pretty much danced his way to a unanimous decision victory. Although a win over Halal Ham was nothing to write home about, this fight generated a lot of interest in Salt Papi, who clearly showed he was no beginner. Over the next 5 months, Papi stayed consistent in the gym, following the strict diet and training program he had during his first camp. He was getting faster, stronger, and making big improvements on his technique. During this period, he managed to get down from 89 kilos to 81 kilos, which was in preparation for his fight against Andy Wolski on the first ever Misfits card in August 2022. Papi did a number of interviews before the fight, and it was funny to see his personality come through in them.
Do you see this fight going? What's your prediction?
First round, I'll probably just warm up. Second round, if it's still up, probably increase my power level to over 9,000. And round 3, if it's still up, then I have to show him my final transformation called Super Salt Papi. And then I wish him a speedy recovery going back to the USA.
Those that saw Salt Papi's performance against Halal Ham were itching to see him in the ring again, but this time around the show didn't last long. Just 15 seconds into the fight, Papi landed a brutal 4-punch combination, and just like that, it was game over for Mr. Wolski. With this performance, the hype around Salt Papi exploded, and this KO is the fastest in any Misfits card to date. Following the fight, rumors started circling that Papi had potentially dozens of amateur fights back in the Philippines, and a lot of people bought into this. However, he's since gone on record to say this isn't the case.
You're having pros go now. This guy's got experience. This dude should be fighting pros. We can settle it once and for all. There is no amateur experience here.
I don't have any amateur experience, man. You cannot see anything online. There's nothing because I don't have any. I was fat. I was obese, man.
But from the skill on display, you can see why some people jumped to that conclusion. Though as spectacular as Papi's KO was, there was one performance that night which was arguably more impressive. FaZe Temper, a popular YouTube personality and owner of the FaZe clan, was due to fight American rapper Blueface for the co-main event of the evening. But after a video surfaced of Blueface getting into a fight with his girlfriend, DAZN and Misfits removed him from the event. This opened the door for Slim, who ended up replacing Blueface for the fight. The only problem was, Slim had to take the fight on 2 weeks notice, giving him very little time to prepare. Because of this, people who aren't familiar with him expected him to lose to Temper. However, of the two, Slim was actually the more experienced boxer. Slim made his boxing debut back in 2019 after he signed to fight Fusi in an amateur bout that September. He had 2 months to train for the fight and came in weighing 72 kilos compared to Fusi, who weighed 82 kilos. This was a significant weight difference, so from the start, Slim was considered the underdog, but once they got in the ring, the difference in skill was very apparent. The fight went on for 4 rounds in which Fusi took a ridiculous amount of punishment. Slim kept hitting him on the face over and over again, and looking at the amount Fusi was bleeding, you'd think that he was fighting without a head guard. Fusi's corner eventually threw in the towel when he just stopped fighting back, so Slim won the fight by TKO. Slim wouldn't return to the ring until July 2021, where he competed in an event by Social Knockout held in Dubai's Coca-Cola Arena. His opponent was Emirati YouTuber NNA Productions, and this time around he fought with no headgear. Despite how terrible Fusi's performance against Slim was, this guy managed to make Fusi look good. NNA Productions didn't even put up a fight and was TKO'd just 44 seconds into the bout. This at the time was the fastest ever knockout in influencer boxing, but as we know, that title now belongs to Salt Papi. A couple months after Slim's win, FaZe Temper tweeted about Slim, comparing him to a kangaroo. He said, "Your first fight was against somebody who was heavier than me. Your second fight, you ran across the ring, threw a punch, and that was the fight. Stop hiding behind the keyboard with your goofy ass." Slim simply replied, "Why do you got a shirtless photo of me on your camera roll? You a weirdo for real." But it was a month later that he would escalate their beef. In October 2021, Slim fought again in the Coca-Cola Arena, this time against Emirati influencer Abidan. Just like Slim, Abidan knocked out his opponent at the last Social Knockout event, so both of them were going into this fight off a big win. Abidan made Slim work more than his last opponent, but it was in the 3rd round Slim landed a straight right that sent Abidan to sleep.
Wow! He's out! Damn!
When Slim was handed the mic, he showed his respect to Abidan, thanked his team for preparing him, then proceeded to take aim at FaZe Temper.
Face temperature, face temper. Where you at, boy? You wanna get slept next? I'm gonna show you, son. I'm gonna show you this boxing shit is real, bro. I put in that work. This man got a boxing bag in his backyard. He thinks he's a boxer now. I'm a worker, bro. I promise you that.
Despite the call out, the fight never got made, so 10 months later, when Blueface got kicked off the Misfits card and Slim was called in as his replacement, it almost seemed like fate. Even though Temper had all the advantages having had a full training camp, Slim was as confident as ever.
Everything's on your terms, bro. What's your excuse? I have 2 weeks, no strength and condition, no nothing, bro.
I have no excuse, bro.
You have no excuse.
You can have a full camp and you're still gonna get your ass whooped.
That comment didn't age well because when fight night rolled around, it all went very wrong for Temper. After a fairly competitive first round, Slim caught Temper in the second with a big right hand, which he converted into a devastating knockout. 2 weeks notice, lack of strength or conditioning, gained 10 pounds fighting out of his natural weight class, and had a 1-month layoff in July recovering from his detached retina eye surgery. Came out this fight with the better game plan and executed. True warrior, Slim the Hitman. With one fight, Slim became perhaps the most talked about boxer on Misfits, but he didn't let that go to his head, choosing to lace up again less than 2 months later in Misfits Series 2. If you thought his fight with Temper was personal, this next one was on a whole nother level. Slim's opponent was Ryan Taylor, a fellow YouTuber he was actually supposed to fight earlier that year. That was until Taylor attacked Slim in a hotel lobby after their press conference, seriously damaging his eye and detaching his retina. I suggest you watch Slim's video to get the full story, but what happened was absolutely despicable, and it's shocking that Taylor was allowed to box on Misfits after what he did. He has a history of violent behavior and was even disqualified from a previous boxing match of his for headbutting his opponent. But the silver lining was, the fight gave Slim an opportunity to get payback, and that's exactly what he did. Despite once again having a weight disadvantage, Slim dominated Taylor, drawing so much blood from him that he looked a mess. Yet even while being humbled, Ryan found a way to play dirty, spitting his blood on Slim's back after he slipped in the second round. That didn't stop Slim though, who kept pummeling Ryan with shot after shot. It was honestly surprising the fight didn't end in a knockout, but Taylor showed he can really take a punch.
How did he not go down from that one?
This man's chin.
Wow. It's made out of iron, man.
In the end, the fight went to the scorecards and Slim won by decision, retaining the light heavyweight belt and besting the man who almost blinded him.
End of the day, end of the fight, you know, like a lot of people in my position wouldn't forgive Ryan for the things he done to me. He did a lot of wrong to me, but I kind of wanted to be an example to the young kids out there because I know a lot of people are beefing out there for no reason.
Following this fight, Slim had a 3-month break before he returned for Misfits Series 4, but this time he was joined by Salt Papi, who was taking on his most dangerous opponent to date, Josh Bruckner. If you were to just go off appearances, then you'd think this fight was only going one way. Josh is in the best shape of any boxer on Misfits, and he's also a pro MMA fighter with 6 fights under his belt. He made his professional boxing debut on the undercard of KSI vs Logan Paul 2 and fought for the second time on Misfits Series 3, the same night Slim fought Ryan Taylor. He won both those fights, so he was going into this fight with an undefeated record, and many people thought it would stay that way. But for those that could look beyond Josh's physical attributes, it was clear Salt Papi had several advantages of his own.
Josh is a much bigger, much stronger, much more athletic individual. Salt Papi is a much calmer, much cooler, much more collected, and much more efficient and smooth boxer.
And judging from Salt Papi's confidence in the run-up to the fight, he had no doubt his skill set was superior.
And I guess I'll be interviewing you after your fight tomorrow. How do you see it playing out? Josh is a tough guy, he's a big guy.
Man,
how do you see it going, Salt Papi?
Gotta make this shit look easy, man. Don't worry about it.
On fight night, we saw much of the same tactics Salt Papi used in his fight against Halal Ham, with him constantly taunting Josh throughout the first round. He was trying to get in his head and bait him into overextending so he could land a big counterpunch, and that's exactly what happened in round 2. Josh kept throwing the same predictable combination, and Papi timed a beautiful counter that sent him to the canvas. This fight showed just how dangerous Salt Papi really is. Josh would be a tough fight for almost anyone on Misfits, yet Papi dispatched him with just a single punch, taking hardly any damage in the whole fight.
He's so big, he has so much muscle, so I didn't expect him to go down with one punch. But you know, muscle don't win fights, like, you know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Humble and cheeky outside the ring, ultra confident and savage inside the ring. The real deal, Salt Papi is truly the prize fighter of this scene. While Papi made quick work of his opponent, the same couldn't be said for Slim, who had a long night versus Tom Zanetti. This was Tom's boxing debut, but what he lacked in skill, he made up for in sheer will and determination. In the first 2 rounds, he was taking some serious punishment, with Slim almost landing punches at will, but Tom simply refused to go down. Slim used a lot of energy in the second round trying to find the knockout, and he entered the third looking gassed out. And even though Tom was huffing and puffing as well, it was toward the end of this round that he managed to land some heavy shots on Slim. By the 4th round, both guys were exhausted and it showed. They slugged it out to the very end, and despite his wobbles, Slim won the fight by unanimous decision. Even though Slim won, the fight exposed some glaring weaknesses in his game. Slim had the range advantage, yet he kept brawling with Tom, putting himself in unnecessary danger. Looking back on the fight, he said himself that he should have kept his distance and stayed behind his jab.
I kind of fed into Tom Zanetti's game, and like, that was my ego. I know I didn't show my true potential, my true boxing ability, because I know I have way more skills up my sleeve than that. I'm telling y'all, man, like I made it a dog fight when I could have easily outboxed him.
But this wasn't the only concern people had about his performance. There were a lot of questions around his fitness since he looked gassed from the 3rd round, and this is a criticism Slim has faced in the past. However, the fact he was facing a naturally bigger guy has a part to play in this. If Slim had landed some of the bombs he was throwing on someone closer to his natural weight, the fight may have ended very differently. And it's for this very reason that Slim has decided to vacate his light heavyweight belt and go down a weight division.
Bro, my last 3 fights, I fought at 175 and I can't even make it, bro. Like, Fred, I'm fighting at a weight class I can't even make. I'm 6 pounds under the weight class. And all these guys are coming down from like 185, 190. They're coming down to 175. They're starving themselves. And then the next day they shoot back up to 190. While me, I got stuck at 169, bro. So like, I'm the champion fighting at a weight disadvantage every single time, bro. For now, man, I'm gonna go back down to 160. Let me take over that division, bro. Let me take over the 160 division. Let me take that belt.
Slim has been trying to secure a fight against KSI for some time now, given that's the big money fight, but it just hasn't happened for him. And after his shaky performance against Tom Zanetti, interest in seeing that fight seems to have died down. This was another factor in his decision to move down a weight class, but he hasn't ruled out coming back to light heavyweight in the future. Although people aren't as interested in seeing KSI versus Slim anymore, what they do want to see is KSI versus Salt Papi. In KSI's fight with FaZe Temper, he delivered on his trash talk leading up to the fight by knocking out Temper in the 1st round. However, before he landed the knockout, Temper was catching him with some good shots. That's because JJ was charging in with his guard down, leaving himself open to counterpunches, something that would spell disaster versus a fighter like Salt Papi, who's known for his counterpunching and knockout power.
What'd you think of how he did in the main event?
He still lounge all the time. He's not patient. And when he punches, his chin is always up. If it comes up to me, that left straight, man. It's accurate. It's accurate, man. It doesn't miss.
That said, KSI has addressed this, saying that if he did fight Salt Papi, he wouldn't fight in the same way he fought Temper.
I fight differently depending on my opponent. So yeah, if I fight someone like Salt Papi, I'm not gonna just run in like a madman because I'm gonna be expecting him to counterpunch me. So
either way though, there's no denying Salt Papi would be a real threat to KSI. But sadly for everyone who wants to see this fight made, it doesn't look like something that will end up happening either. KSI has 1, maybe 2 fights before he fights Jake Paul. Paul, which means it's crucial he makes the most of them. It just doesn't make sense for him to spend an entire camp preparing for a southpaw fighter like Salt Papi, given Jake is an orthodox fighter.
Now, all I'm just training against orthodox fighters now. So no more southpaws. You know, people want me to fight Salt Papi. It's not happening. Okay, I need to fight Jake Paul. I can't get distracted now. No. All right, the goal is Jake Paul. So
something we may see in the future though is Salt Papi versus Slim. These two have become really good friends recently, so it would be interesting to see them get in the ring with each other. And with how popular they both are, it would definitely be a big money fight. They've both said this is something they'd be up for, so we might not have to wait too long. I think a big part of why Salt Papi and Slim are so likable is because they're so relatable. Neither of them are some genetic marvel, yet through hard work and belief in their own abilities, they've stopped everyone that's been put in front of them. On top of that, they're just chill, down-to-earth guys who don't have the massive ego we often see in combat sports. It'll be exciting to see where these guys end up, because I have no doubt that this is just the beginning for them.